The story of Britain's African colony begins in the late 19th century during the era known as the Scramble for Africa, a period when European powers rushed to colonize and control vast regions of the African continent. Britain, driven by a desire for resources, power, and influence, established numerous colonies across Africa, with some of the most notable being Kenya, Uganda, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, formerly Southern Rhodesia, and South Africa. One of the most significant British African colonies was South Africa, where the discovery of gold and diamonds in the late 1800s attracted British interest. Britain fought two major conflicts, known as the Boer Wars, against the Dutch descendant settlers, known as the Boers, to gain control over these resources. After their victory, the British consolidated their power, leading to the establishment of the Union of South Africa in 1910, which remained under British influence until it gained independence. In Kenya, the British introduced a colonial administration in the early 1900s, seizing fertile lands and setting up large-scale farming operations. Many local communities were displaced, and the indigenous people were forced to work as laborers under harsh conditions. This exploitation led to growing resentment and resistance, culminating in the Mau Mau Uprising in the 1950s. The rebellion, although brutally suppressed by the British, was a turning point that eventually led to Kenya's independence in 1963. Nigeria was another major British colony rich in resources like oil, palm oil, and cocoa. The British established a system of indirect rule, utilizing local leaders to govern on their behalf. However, ethnic tensions and divisions, partly exacerbated by British policies, would later contribute to conflicts and civil wars even after Nigeria gained independence in 1960. In Uganda, the British laid down railways and infrastructure, primarily to facilitate trade and resource extraction. However, their rule led to social and political disruptions, which sowed the seeds of future conflicts, including the infamous dictatorship of Idi Amin years after Uganda achieved independence in 1962. The British colonization of Zimbabwe, then Southern Rhodesia, was marked by conflicts over land and resources, leading to an extended struggle for independence. The British settlers maintained political and economic control, leading to a protracted conflict known as the Bush War or Rhodesian War. It wasn't until 1980 that Zimbabwe gained independence under Robert Mugabe. Overall, Britain's rule in Africa was characterized by the extraction of resources, economic exploitation, and the establishment of political control, often at the expense of the local population. The colonial period left a profound impact on the continent, influencing political boundaries, languages, economies, and social structures that continue to shape African countries today. The legacy of Britain's African colonies is complex, marked by both development and deep-seated challenges, including ethnic divisions, economic disparities, and the struggle for identity and nationhood in the post-colonial era.